Welcome back to the Ingredients for Success podcast. I'm Andrew Rice.
And I'm Jackie Rizzo.
Today we have Bill Grundler, the coach of CrossFit Inferno in San Luis Obispo, California. Yep, okay, we worked on that. He is not only a coach, he does program for other gyms. He does Master's Experience Seminars. He's got a Legacy Master's program himself, and as well as motivational speaking, and there's a whole commentating. I think that's the big one. We've been seeing you on some CrossFit stuff, so welcome, Bill. I would like to start with so in doing the research, so we did a video shoot. Jackie came down, Brock was there, Josh, you. So I think they had a good time, so thank you for being a good host.
Yeah. Well, it's more than the happiest place. I don't know what, I think Ellen or Oprah or someone said it was the happiest place in America at one point.
Oh, wow.
I would have to agree.
And I loved how you said it. San Luis Obispo.
Right.
Said it so exquisitely.
Well, thanks. It was totally unintentional. So, but they did come back way happier than usual, and that was either because they were away from me, or
that was part of it.
That they were there. I don't know. So, anyway, so thanks. But I do want us to kick off. So, I knew you were good, but then I looked at your CrossFit Games little record there, and I didn't realize. So in 2012, you were an individual competitor, got 32nd. The next year you get second, and then since then you've been ranked number one. That's pretty killer. Ranked number one in your age division. In your age divisions, right? Yeah. But that's still amazing, dude.
That is.
No, it's really funny. Since I started competing, and I was in on the OG side of it, in the very, very beginning. The only reason I didn't, or I wasn't part of the 07 and the 08 games, which you could just kind of show up to it, was because I was either stuck on a fire or I was held at the station because of fires that were going on. So I had been doing it since then. And so then when I first competed was 2009. So it was way back then. And what I liked about it back then was there really wasn't a master's category at that point. It was just, here's the workout, everybody gets on the line and races. And I really liked that element of it. I've never been a fan necessarily of, let's start dividing everything up. And so I'm really, really good in this small pool of people over here. That's never really been my thing. So I always was competing all the way through in the regular open division. But 2014, I got hurt in the regionals, in the open regionals. And then I had to rehab to try to come back for the next year. And that kind of pushed this older guy out of the open young guy category, just because I just was trying to, recover through that and try to get through that. But all those years before that, they started making the Masters division. I just always kind of refused it. They said you could qualify to the games at the Master division. I'm like, no, that's not, I'm not doing it I'm not trying just to go to the games in any division. I want the big show is what I always wanted. So, but in 2015, I qualified I didn't really have much of an option at that point because I was kind of coming back. So I'm like, okay, my brother qualified and he really wanted me to go with him that year. He thought it'd be really cool for both of us to be able to compete. And so we both qualified, and that's kind of where my master's competitive element kind of started. So since then, it's just, now I just kind of do what I do. So if it ends up being that I'm doing well in the open, then cool. I always aim for the big show, but I think those days are behind me now. Dang it.
Well, we were just talking about that before. So we were just talking about that before the show, and I've only been doing CrossFit a couple years now. I love it. It's not just that. It's not just CrossFit. It's the camaraderie within the gym. There's so much more, right? When you start understanding diet, I think there's so much diet and supplementation, which we'll get to here in a little bit with CrossFit. But it's just the lifestyle is so healthy, and so the last couple of years, my wife and I, we're the healthiest we've ever been. We're, you don't really want to be like, yeah, I'm in the Masters division, I'm 41. So I'll never even come close to making it to regionals, like let alone win the open in our gym, right? But I love it. So, but it's one of those things when I'm in there and there's 20-year-old dudes that are like twice my size, like I'm trying to beat them. Like, I get what you're saying with the whole, like, am I going to beat them? Well, probably not. Well, no, definitely not. But in my brain, I'm beating them, right?
But the best thing about that, though, is you are in a win-win situation. Like, if you beat them, high fives, pat yourself on the back, everything is cool. If you don't beat them, you weren't supposed to anyway. So it's really like no skin off your back. So it's like you can happily chase that goal and always feel good no matter what the outcome is. You know, even if they kick your ass on it, it's like, who cares? They're 25, they're supposed to, you know what I mean? Like, so it's always there. And if you're right on their tail, it just makes you like, that's right, I got you.
Yeah, but then they see me on their tail and they just like, typically my jam is like, you know, anything body weight because I'm a little teeny tiny guy. So it's like pull-ups and I'm just looking over at the, like, especially at the beginning of a WOD, I'm like, oh yeah, killing it. By the end of it, I'm dead. They've beat me by like 80 minutes and whatever. So.
And your wife too.
And yeah,
she beats you too.
My wife beats me too. Like my wife is so much better than I am at CrossFit. But anyway, so yeah, you know, we were talking before this. We got a new gym. We just built a new gym here in Carthage, and we were laying down mats. And it's like, you were a wrestler for a long time, right?
From 5 years old through probably 27, and I coached and wrestled at the collegiate level and all that. Yeah, that was my world.
You wrestled? Didn't you wrestle with Chuck Liddell?
Yeah, we were on the same team for like 4 years.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. So I wrestled, wasn't that good, but I wrestled my whole life. I wrestled a little bit in the Marines, and so my knees, and I did MMA for 4 years, and so my knees are just like jacked up. So I was laying down the tiles at the new gym, or the mats, and we're doing the sticky tape, you know. We're on our knees, and so I go to CrossFit yesterday. And there's a really sweet Kelly Youngblood. She's a really sweet physical therapist that goes there. And I'm like, my knees are like swollen. First time this has happened, but they're like swollen. And I'm like, I don't know what. She's like, well, Andrew, you are old.
That's your reason. That's your whole medical definition is that, well, you are old.
Anyway, that's kind of what we want to talk about today. Is just like, I feel like I'm that 15-year-old kid in high school, just wiry and ready to go.
I mean, I do too. Probably not 15, maybe like 22.
Okay.
That's probably what I feel like.
Okay.
But I know that my body doesn't feel that way. Like trying to walk up a steep hill with my husband yesterday, and the same thing, my knees were cracking, and I thought, this is not okay. This is not okay. And so you do, you know, the Legacy program. Is that something that you help people like to overcome? Because I think part of it is a mental issue.
Yeah.
Everything that you guys are experiencing, everybody as you get older experiences. And usually that's because of not what you're doing right then, but what you did do before. One of the most dangerous things for masters athletes, especially if they once were an athlete, are they were really good, they did all this stuff, and it was like, if you ever got hurt, you never stopped to rehab it because you wanted to get out on the field and play again. So you always were in. It was like, and I still have this mentality, and it's not the best, but it's like, tape it up, I'll be fine. Just put some tape on it. I'll be all right. Throw me back in. I'll be good, you know? And that's that ego part that gets masters in trouble, because if they were good, let's say they were really good up to they were 20 years old, college is done or high school's done or whatever their competitive time is done, then life sets in, and then they find CrossFit 10, 12, 15, 20 years later, and the muscle memory starts to kick in. So now they do have some good movement. They do have the mental toughness to do things, to keep on going, to keep on pushing. But now they have the 20-year-old brain that is functioning on a 40, 45, 50-year-old body. And the two don't always mesh the way that they should. So that pain is always there. And I think that, you know, for old athletes, we'll get into it and we'll feel, it's like, oh man, this feels amazing. I remember this feeling. And I really honestly believe that push is the fountain of youth that keeps us young. You know, that feeling of like, yeah, come on, let's get in there. Let's mix it up. Let's feel that rush, see how hard I can push myself, see what I can do. then it's the aftermath. So when I started seeing all of the other programs that were out there, the general gist was, well, for masters athletes, is they were just kind of copying all of these other programs or doing these other programs, but the general population of people that were doing those programs are like 25, 27, maybe if they're old, you know, and that usually ended up being way too much volume for what we need to do. It doesn't mean that we can't have heavy. It doesn't mean that we can't have hard. It doesn't mean that we can't have really, really ugly, grindy, puke afterwards, you know, workouts. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the recovery time. So what I was seeing was, okay, what sort of volume would work with older athletes that allow them to still train hard, that allow them to not be pigeonholed by age. A lot of the master programs out there right now will have, if you are 35 to 39, you do this weight. If you're 40 to 44, you do this weight. If you're 50 to 55, you do this weight. And for a competition, okay, I get it, because that way you got to put everyone on the same page. But for training, I think that does the athlete a disservice, because I look at a lot of those programs and I can do the weights that they're putting, and then they tell me to do, I don't know, a power clean 4 times, and it's like 185 pounds. Like, well, okay, that to me isn't hard. So if I do that program, I end up actually getting weaker. I don't get better. So the program that I designed was, okay, how can we give masters athletes, for wherever they are on the fitness scale and on the goal scale, how can I give them something that's going to be volume-wise appropriate, weight-wise appropriate, recovery-wise appropriate? And that's kind of where the design came from. So I have my workouts that I put in there. I base them off of if somebody is a Masters Games level athlete. So a lot of the numbers I will base off myself as kind of a guide. And I think it's one of the things that my program has that a lot of other Masters programs don't have, is I'm the test subject. So I know what the upper end of the spectrum should look like. And then now I know exactly what the intent should be for everyone else doing that. So if, let's say we're doing sets of 20 pull-ups in this, and we're doing rounds of that. And we'll say pull-ups and deadlifts or something. It may be, all right, you're going to do 5 rounds of 20 pull-ups and 10 deadlifts. The deadlifts are at 315 or 215. That's the prescribed weight. Then I'll have the next piece of that would be, it should be about 70% of your 1 rep max. So you can use that number. Or if you were fresh and you weren't tired from the workout, you could get this many of reps done, touch and go, unbroken, without stopping. And you should be able to fight to get to this first end of the spectrum, but there's no way you're going to go more than this. And so that puts you in a range of where that weight should be. That particular workout would be a body weight, something that you can cycle through quickly, and then something heavy after that. So that would be the intent of that. So I would say, okay, for your pull-ups, if you're a games level masters athlete, you should be able to do these either unbroken or no more than 1 break. So that's the intent of that. If you are below that level, then it's like, okay, then you have jumping pull-ups, banded pull-ups, ring rows, but whatever scale you use, it should be to where you're doing about that same thing. You should only really have about 1 break in that. That keeps everyone moving at the same, getting the same response, the same stimulus out of it. And then the deadlift, the same thing, and no more than 1 break on this. That's how I want that to go. So that way you have your top end athletes and your bottom end athletes all being able to work, but that may be the only piece. We'll have the strength piece and then that's it that day. It's not, here's 3 hours of accessory work and another Metcon on top of that and a capacity, whatever. I save that for when I'm doing more individual type programming, when I know exactly what they need. Because I think a lot of athletes are using accessory movements, which is cool, but you do accessory movements because you have a deficit somewhere and you need those accessory pieces to work through that little glitch in that movement for strength or skill or whatever. So the legacy program was designed so that a master, someone that feels the feel, that knows what it feels like, that knows what it takes, can program for other aged athletes that still want to play the game and still want to hit it hard. And the idea is hit it hard with enough volume that you can recover by the next day and be okay to come in, because where we get better is when we're recovering. We don't get better by doing 5 days in a row. That doesn't do anything for us. Maybe mentally, because we have stresses in the world and stuff like that. But as far as actually physical improvement, we don't get better with that. We get worse, and we end up just checking off boxes. And if we check off boxes, we aren't trying to push to get better. We're just trying to do something. So that's kind of where that all came up from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you say I need to listen more about don't do 5 days.
Because he can't walk by Thursday or Friday because he works out during his lunch break, comes in and waddles. I
can't help it. But it is right. Like our gym got new owners, and then we started doing like more of the percentage of your 1 rep max type stuff. And like to me, I mean, I'm $150 dripping wet. Like Well,
I'll say this, like for your coaches, for myself as a coach, when I'm programming, and I usually will coach the evening classes at my gym, and so I'll see all the names on the board, and I'll be able to see everyone's scores on the board. And if I did my job right programming wise, and the coaches did their job right as far as helping everybody with the right weights and as far as right scales and modifications or whatever, then everyone's scores should be pretty similar. It shouldn't be that we have someone that gets 10 rounds in this event and 2 rounds in the same event. If they did, someone didn't do it right. Either someone went way too light or someone went way too heavy. Or depending what that looks like, if that's across the board, then okay, maybe the program was designed wrong. I mean, and there have been times when I've messed up on, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it should look like this, and here's what everyone should be doing, and I'll kind of take an average setup, and then it comes to fruition. It's like, oh, okay, those 2 for thrusters really weren't the best idea to do. That took way too much out. But that's how I'll know. So I think that when coaches and gym owners and programmers are doing that, it's important for them to know what they want it to look like. And part of that would be percentage based. If they, but the hard thing with that is they have to understand what the RX weight is supposed to look like, because the RX weight results and the percentage based weight results should be pretty much the same. Like, again, you should be getting 5 rounds. I should be getting 5 rounds, whether you're doing percentage and I'm doing RX or not.
I mean, come to think of it, that's kind of like I'm not programming it. Coach Tackett and Ansley do a great job, but like I didn't even realize it. But yeah, I have noticed that like it is very similar scores on the board now between all those. And anyway, it's been a blast.
One thing I'd like to go back on a little bit is you talked a bit more about the recovery and how that is important. And in our industry, we are really one of our ingredients is in joint health. It's a natural eggshell membrane. How do you incorporate that into your legacy program for older?
Like diet and supplementation?
That's exactly what I'm going. Yes.
I think what we as a population, as a master's population, forget is the key word to that is supplementation. So the primary should be what's your nutrition. And, everyone has done whatever diets they've done, whether they're doing paleo or they're doing keto or they're doing macros or they're doing whatever, vegan or whatever the plan is that they're on. They have to understand what's the reason for that plan. When I'm training for an event, if I'm training for the games or I'm trying to qualify and get myself in there, the way that the general would be as clean as I can eat, first of all, because I want as much nutrient dense food as I can get, because the better nutrients I have, the better my body's going to have fuel to make things do what it needs to do, whether it's power to fuel up or to repair whatever I have that's been breaking down. But then I'll do more of a macro style, because I need to make sure that I have enough fuel to do what I need to do. So I will, there's a purpose for that. When I see people that are doing macros for no reason, I get confused. because that is a specific diet for a specific purpose. Same thing as even like keto. I don't think that any diet is bad. I don't think that any diet is bad at all. I think that they have a pro and a con to it. You have to understand the reasons for all that. And it takes a little while to dive into those as you're doing it, depending on what you want to do, whether it's vegan, whether it's keto, whether it's whatever. But I think that the main base for us should always be to eat as clean as possible, because as we get older, our organs that are used to filter and break down and digest and all of that, to get all the nutrients from the food that we're eating, have taken on a lot of abuse. When I was in college, if I went to McDonald's, which I love McDonald's. Oh man, I love McDonald's. So good. When I would go to McDonald's.
We were just talking about that at the gym. McDonald's, I used to love it, but man, I can't even go. Like, as soon as I eat it now, it's not good.
It just hurts.
Okay, so both my parents were teachers, and on payday, we always went, payday is all right, Friday, we're loading up in the van, we're going to McDonald's. And it was like, all right, McDonald's, here we go. So, I mean, I have a lot of like nostalgic type memories when it comes to McDonald's, but I could go to McDonald's. My normal meal when I would go to McDonald's would be 5 cheeseburgers, extra large fries, supersized Coke, or whatever the big Coke was that they had at the time. This was probably like in 1932. So it was like whatever the big Coke was at the time. And I could literally do that 3 times a day. And I was shredded. I was a badass college athlete. You would not know that I ate like shit because my body could handle it. It was resilient enough. It was young enough. I had enough of a foundation of, eating good. It's not like, we ate like crap food all the time when I was younger. So I had a really good foundation, very athletic foundation. So my metabolism was hot and I would burn through that stuff, no problem. The problem is that when we do that for years and years and years, even, alcohol and any sort of medication type stuff, like our body has to filter all of that crap out. So now as we get older, we figure, well, I'm older. I can enjoy the finer things. I can have this really decadent piece of cake or these great drinks or these really heavy beers or this, we're going to go out for a special dinner or have these special treats and whatever. And the problem is that our body doesn't function nearly the way that it did because we aren't our machines don't work like they used to, So like you could probably pee into like a brand new Formula 1 car and the thing's still going to run 120 miles an hour. But if you do that into like a 1954 Chevy, it's going to be and barely move anywhere. And it's the same sort of setup. As we get older, we have to realize that we should be eating better, not worse. We should be more attentive to what we're putting into our body, not less. It shouldn't be that the 20-year-old kids are as concerned as we are about what we put into our body. We should be thinking more about that, and we don't. And I think that it just becomes kind of I'm older, it's okay, and it doesn't matter as much. And that's where we run into problems. Our metabolism is not as hot. Our bodies can't filter stuff out the way that it used to, and as efficiently. And so even if we are eating okay, we aren't getting the nutrients that we should be because we just can't take them in the way that we used to. So it's super important. It's super important.
Yeah. So I think probably for the same reason most start at gyms, my wife had been going, she wanted me to go, but then they call it, like my wife and good friends call it Fat Andrew. I got, I'm small frame. I was getting heavy, wrestled in the lightweights, fought in the lightweights, and then here I stopped working out. Yep. My metabolism slowing down, and then eating garbage, drinking whatever, and then before I know it, there I am. So I go in, but I start CrossFit, and I'm like, oh, okay, keto, or ketogenic diet, like that's what I call it, keto. But keto. I tried it, and I'm like, I started CrossFit, and I was doing the ketogenic diet at the same time. I'd started both. I literally I didn't have the energy to do anything. And then so I finally got some people that knew what they were talking about, teaching me about macros, but macros for what you're doing. Like, I need this, I need more carbs. I need, 60% carbs, 30% protein, whatever, because I'm doing this CrossFit thing. I need this right diet. I need to get the energy in so I can burn that. But like this, it was a process. And I had been an athlete my whole life too, eating McDonald's. We were the same way, we didn't have a lot of money when mom and dad had money or got paid, probably, whatever. We went to, that's right. McDonald's Happy Meal. So, and I just never learned how to eat, And so like now it's just like, I think diet and the supplementation. So we'll talk a little bit more about the supplementation, but like the diet, you're right. I wish more people understood. It's not just, don't just take supplements. This is a lifestyle change you have to make. You have to get on a better diet. Whatever that diet is, like you said, something that's personalized for your activity level, for what you're doing in life right now, something that it doesn't have to be ketogenic, it doesn't have to be vegan. It's whatever your body needs and is going to do well with. Like, I do like the whole 30 as like an intro, just because you can kind of incorporate, leave foods alone and then slowly incorporate them and kind of figure out what is going on. I think there are people that use that as a diet plan, which it's really not a diet plan. But anyway, but supplementation, joint health specifically, we have NEM, we've got some for bone health, we have ESC, and we have a lot of supplementation. But what are the supplements? What are some of the supplements that you've got right now that you take?
I will be, honest. Yeah. What I take now is very, I've tried I've tried almost everything that's out there. There was a time where I was huge into fish oil, and not, the fact that I'm not taking these things now doesn't mean that I don't think that there aren't benefits to them. When I was training, when you're competing and you want to get every edge you can legally, within the confines of whatever the rules are, you will take what you need to take to be able to keep on going. And for me, mostly that's what it was. I've never done any, and I get really upset when I see a lot of the athletes that will take the performance enhancements drugs and the supplements that way. For me, it was always, okay, what's going to help me to feel okay tomorrow when I get up? And so I was big into fish oil at one time. I thought that I still do feel that there are massive benefits to that. I've taken regular protein. I've taken amino acid, I don't say concoctions, mixtures of different amino acids and different percentages of amino acids for like a pre and a post workout. Not so much a let's fire me up pre, but a way to support my involuntary muscles so that I can be ready to go for the workout, and then afterwards be able to recover my voluntary muscles that way. So there's been those sorts of setups. Honestly, the only thing that I'm taking currently would be so I take Bub's Naturals, which is just like a collagen protein mix that I put in my coffee. I don't take it because I'm thinking I need to get my supplementation in. It's more because it makes that and MCT oil powder, because it makes my coffee frothy in the morning. So it's not black coffee. I have taken your guys' the eggshell joint stuff that you guys have as well. And I think that all of those things are awesome. I just think that people need to understand that you can't grab a bottle of whatever the stuff is and think that that's going to be the end all be all, or think that like I take these couple things and now all of a sudden all pain is going to vanish. There has to be an encompassing idea of moving correctly, rehabbing correctly, eating correctly, so you have the basic foundational nutritional values that you need to get in, then supplement the stuff that, like, what is it that you are needing. If you have, we have a lot of joint issues, not just because we're getting older, but it's because we move like crap, and we've been moving like crap for years. So what we've basically done is we've worn out all the little rubber bushings. That's why we have issues. So just understanding that if I put protein powder, if I take a protein drink after I work out, it isn't all of a sudden going to give me massive biceps and I'm not going to be sore at all tomorrow. Like it's not going to make you feel better. It's going to make sure that you have some macronutrients floating around in your body that you can get a hold of, so your body doesn't have to pull off of other, protein to get into, filling these gaps that you made. So I currently, I don't take a whole lot. I really try to be more nutritionally based than anything. And I think honestly, it's just because I'm not competing like the way I used to.
Yeah. I think that's it though. I mean, you're right on, man. You're right on. And I wish the general public that may be maybe a little bit less active, especially than a CrossFitter, or just like trying to figure out what they need. I mean, diet first. I mean, exercise, yes, exercise. Diet first. So like you got to get your diet. You got to eat clean. Like you're gonna see this huge. You feel this just huge difference in what your output is, even just in your day to day. Whether it's just getting drowsy at work or whatever that is. So like diet. So I agree. We are a supplement. We sell ingredients to supplements. But I 100% agree with that. I didn't take NEM for a while. I've been taking it for a couple of months. So we sell NEM, a joint health ingredient. We preach it. Man, I'm gonna tell you, all the wrestling and all the wear and tear on my joints specifically, it just kind of, especially when I'm doing overhead and a lot of different things that are can be a little bit tougher on the joints. I started taking that, and my joints do feel really good compared to that. So I'm gonna keep taking that. But I think to your point, that's just like me. Okay, here I am. I got diet and I got some other things. I take protein powders, whatever. But it was really about what is the thing I really need some supplementation on, right? Like what? Yep. So these things aren't really cutting it. Even though I'm eating really clean, I'm doing really well with my diet. Man, my joints are still just a little, because of the wear and tear from what I was doing before. So I do take NEM, and I think you're right. I wish, I think people's intention, especially after the new year, right? Every year it's like, we're gonna get on this diet. Well, I'm gonna, supplement sales are always through the roof in January. Right. And it's like, I'm gonna buy all of these, and you take it all the way up
and
to
gym memberships.
And gym memberships, right? And then then at the end of the year, they're taking that and then they're throwing that in the garbage because they never used it, because they, when really it's like, just do the diet, eat clean.
If you, just like what you're talking about, seeing that pyramid of nutrition being on the base, that's the foundation. Then you work into your fitness level and start working. Then as you are moving, you will start to see, okay, what other things, where am I short? Is it a joint issue? Is it tissue issue? Is it metabolism issue? Is it there's a bazillion different types of supplements out there. It's like, what thing do you need? What do you personally need? That's the supplement you take to fill in the gaps. So if you find out that as you're doing all this stuff, because of all the wear and tear and all that, then yeah, that would be the absolute appropriate thing to do, is to take that, because that's going to be the tip of that pyramid that you need. Now you have the full pyramid. You have your nutrition, you have your movement, you have your workouts, you have your mobility, you have your supplement to fill in the holes, to make it so that you can still continue to get the benefits of everything that it is that you're doing. If the joints go out because of whatever reason, bad movement, bad nutrition, no supplementation, whatever, then all of a sudden now you can't do the movement, and all those blocks start to fall. So, I really see that appropriate supplementation based on what it is that you need is kind of like the mortar between the bricks of all the important big pieces to hold that stuff together. And that's when it gets kind of cool, So, but it's understanding what you need.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think this is a good reminder to anyone who is listening to the podcast, in the natural product industry and functional food and beverage, to hear this, because as consumers are more health conscious now than ever before, thanks to the pandemic, and sales for dietary supplements, they're through the roof. And so I think it's a good reminder that we have to be that trust transparency, what we are putting on the label, what we're putting out there, because consumers really don't know when they start looking into supplements and diet and exercise. And so this is absolutely, I think, 100% great for us all to be reminded on.
You know, there's diet fads, there are exercise fads, but what we're, I think, as a community of I don't know, nutrition enthusiasts, I would say, like what we're starting to realize is like, it isn't one size fits all. You need to figure out what's best for you. And what's best for you is only gonna be figured out if you take that journey yourself and commit to figuring out what it is, regardless. So anyway, I think, I love what you're saying on that. We're gonna have to wrap it up here. Loved visiting with you, Bill. I do want to throw something out for Bill. BillGrundler.com. That's your website. You've got all the information about your coaching and programming, the master's experience seminars, which I would love to talk to you about more. But yeah, so find Bill, BillGrundler.com. The Legacy Masters, I think every gym should kind of check that out and see what's going on there. Motivational speaking. I love what you're doing with police and fire. I didn't realize we didn't talk about this. We'll have you on again, but fire captain, much respect for that. It's a hard job. Thanks for what you did there. And like, love the support with the police and the fire and military as well. Being prior military, we love that. So, man, thanks so much for coming on.
No, you're welcome. And you guys probably didn't, like, I'm a babbler, so it's not hard. You could ask a question. Like, I could go on a long time. So I'm probably sure I stole all your guys' time. So
we knew that you were a talker because Brock behind the camera said Bill's a talker. So we actually went in here and we've heard some of your interviews. So we're like, we're just gonna have a few questions and we're gonna let Bill talk. And it worked out. It worked out beautifully. It worked out beautifully, man. So we appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure. It was a blast. It was a blast.
So good to see you again.
You too.
All right. We'll see you, Bill.